What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Canelo Alverez. Canelo Alverez came forth and gave his critiquing on his current promoter, Eddie Hearn. And this is what he had to say. He said, Eddie Hearn is the best promoter in the world by far. He pays attention to what his fighters like. He listens to his fighters. He pays attention to close detail. He hardly ever has a problem, or his fighters hardly ever have a problem with him. And I look forward to working with him for a very long time. I'm also happy to finally meet a promoter with these type of credentials and this type of reputation. Those are the words of Canelo Alverez. Now, let me counterpunch. Like I've told you guys many, many times, when Canelo has worked with Eddie before, okay, as the competitor promoter, and Canelo's an observant guy. You hear him, you'll see him watch people, you'll see how things take place, and he noticed a lot of things about Eddie Hearn. And another thing he noticed about Eddie Hearn is something that he didn't notice in his own promoter. These guys fell out, and you know Oscar De La Hoya and Canelo Alvarez worked together for a very long time. So that means that both guys have some good rapport, personally and professionally. So Canelo has a full take on how Eddie Hearn, or should I say Oscar De La Hoya, conducts his business. Okay, and I think what happened with Canelo and Oscar, I think the Triple G negotiations, as far as him signing that $365 million contract, I think a lot of things was kept from Canelo that he didn't necessarily care for. Okay, and when you're dealing with a promoter that you're finding more and more things that you don't like about him, you're going to start looking elsewhere by default. Okay, he's going to be seeing other promoters and how they conduct business, just like Eddie Hearn. He watched Eddie Hearn from afar, from across that table, okay, on the other end of that table, how he conduct business, the things that he did, his reputation, etc., etc. So, what really went on with Canelo Alvarez? I think he drew this conclusion not for the last two fights. I think he drew this conclusion the last 2 years, 3 years, that he's worked with Eddie Hearn. Of course, he worked with Eddie Hearn, and Eddie Hearn was promoting another fighter, and he's seen how Eddie Hearn was promoting that particular fighter, and he liked what he's seen. And if you do look at the track record of Eddie Hearn, he doesn't have any problems, especially with money. If the money's there, it's there. If it's not there, it's not going to be there. You know, because you see a lot of people come to Eddie Hearn or whatnot, like the Michael Hunters, the Adrian Broners. You see these guys come to Eddie Hearn, and he makes them an offer. If the offer is substantial, okay, they'll rock with it. They'll either accept it or reject it. However, if he doesn't have it, you never hear him doing any type of Don King style BS of something that's under the table or something that's, no, behind the scenes. No. Eddie Hearn is going to do these particular things based on what he has available. That's why you don't see him with problems or drama with his fighters. So this whole time when Eddie Hearn has been that competitive promoter, Canelo Alvarez has been watching him. He's been watching him. He's been observing him. He's been knowing, hey, and seeing, hey, you know what? I think this guy is a pretty good promoter. You know, it's never any problem. Look at Bob Arum. And by comparison, why is there always some type of problem with Bob Arum and money? He's always talking about money as though he's going to live for fucking ever. Counterpunch, right? And you'd think at that time he would be the most laid back, tranquil promoter that we have, because he doesn't have what a lot of promoters have or destined to have or should have, and that's time. You're looking at somebody 90 years old that's still talking, still arguing over pennies. Pennies on the dollar, right? And then you have someone that's 40 years old, Eddie Hearn, that is supposed to have the same type of attitude that Bob Arum should have learned to adjust to, knowing that he's 90 years old. He should do more to help his fighters. The money shouldn't be the whole asset of the whole deal, but it is. And it just shows you the mentality of people. Eddie Hearn doesn't work with that. He knows he loves what he does versus Bob Arum. He's been accustomed to dealing with certain fighters and certain set rates of the way they're going to be in his mind and his mind only, and where the world is ultimately changing. $1 million in 1997 is not the same as $1 million in 2021. Counterpunch. So with Eddie Hearn acknowledging this, knowing this, that's why he has Canelo. That's why Canelo's saying, you know what? This guy's the best promoter in the world because he does listen. And a lot of people don't like Eddie Hearn. They don't like Eddie Hearn, maybe his swagger, the way he carries himself or whatever. But one thing you cannot say, and I've told people over and over and over again, you cannot argue that the man tells you you're going to get $10 million, you're going to get $10 million. You're not going to get 6. And he told you 10. No, you're going to get $10 million because that's what you agreed upon. Okay, that's why Canelo Alverez is giving him such accolades. And understand, this is Canelo Alverez. This is the face of boxing. Okay, this isn't just a regular fighter like a Brandon Rios or a Danny Garcia or anyone on that level. Canelo is on the top level giving accolades to a promoter for doing his fucking job. Okay, and it's a good thing to hear, and it's a good thing to finally put into action, okay, and put the stamp on it to show, hey, Eddie Hearn is doing a good job being a promoter. A lot of people, again, don't want to believe that, especially if they're on the other side, especially because, you know, he came over here with that $1 billion guarantee, or that $1 billion budget, rather. And a lot of people doubted him. Well, I think seeing is believing. And I think when people see it and they speak it, other people hear it, and they'll also begin to receive it if they want to. But of course, that's what you're dealing with when you got with somebody, or you get with somebody that actually gives a shit. And I think Eddie Hearn does care for the fighters, okay, to a certain degree. You know, I mean, as well as any other promoter could. But I think he goes the extra mile in making sure everything is set in stone to see what the fighters want. And I think if Oscar De La Hoya would have done those same things, he wouldn't have lost Canelo Alvarez to Eddie Hearn in the first place. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think about Canelo Alvarez stating that Eddie Hearn is the best promoter in the world by far. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunching. Peace.